Alrighty, welcome to the 84th edition of Before the Battle here on our brand new home, the MMA Circus YouTube channel. Perhaps a little confusing because this certainly is not the MMA Circus. That is my other show. I hosted sometimes with Jed Meshew, although it hasn't been, that way
It's been
recently.
a while.
It has been a while. Andrew has lived up to expectations since tying the knot. I have to give him that. But we moved home, so we're moving on from the MMA Junior YouTube channel to the MMA Circus. Basically, the reasoning for this is basically because the MMA Circus, my other show, we're moving to YouTube. We're doing it live now starting this past week. And it doesn't really make sense to have like 2 or 3 YouTube channels going at the same time, spread ourselves thin. So I just figured, okay, interviews on one channel or interviews, so the circus, Before the Battle, all on one channel. And here we are. So subscribe, like, comment, all that. We appreciate it. My name is Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com. I'm joined, as always, by Jed Meshew of the award-winning MMA Fighting. Wesley Riddle, two shows in a row, not here, of MMA Psycho. Don't know where he is.
4 out of the last 5 too. Yeah. He's not even on the show anymore.
The guy is on a skid. He says homework, but I call bluff. Nonetheless, Jed, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Happy to talk about some fights on a Thursday evening while I watch football in the background. So that's fun.
Who's playing?
The Patriots and the Buccaneers.
And who's winning? Who are you cheering for? All that. The details.
Patriots are currently up 3-0 on the Bucs. I don't care about this game mostly, but a couple of my fantasy players are live right now, and so I do sort of care about this. And yeah, that's just how fantasy football works. It makes you watch games you don't give a shit about. So, but I'm in a league with Mookie Alexander, and I have to beat that motherfucker. So I'm invested right now.
Fair enough. Well, I don't give a shit about NFL. I didn't go through the pain of doing fantasy football, so I have to watch or whatever. So we're here to talk about fights, and that is what I watch. Let's go back to 2 weeks ago. It has been a little bit. UFC Fight Night 117, I believe, if I got the number right. Okami loses to St. Preux in Japan. What do you got for us? Results from 2 weeks ago. Again, UFC Fight Night 117, our bonuses, our picks, and DraftKings.
Well, it was a busy weekend because there was not just the UFC Fight Night that weekend. It was UFC Fight Night. I think you were right. I think it was 117, but it was also Bellator 183. So we had a double header weekend. One of Bellator's better cards in general. So we had that, and our results are thusly. On the UFC event, I went 6-4. Nicholas, you went 5-5, and Wes Riddle taking home the gold there at 7-3. But since it was a doubleheader affair, we're gonna merge the two together. And when you add in the Bellator event, where I went 3-2, and both you and Wes went 2-3, me and Wesley tie for the weekend with a total result of 9-6. So I get to keep the belt. Basically, I get the belt, and it's my belt since Wes isn't here to have it with me. As far as our DraftKings results from last time go, Wes is I think he might even be on a streak at this point. I think this might be his second win in a row, or this could be maybe I'm mistaken. It's hard. So many things running together these days. Wes Riddle takes the win, 582 points, a really strong showing, one of the better showings of any of our DraftKings efforts. 3 fighters with triple-digit scores, and a fourth scoring the fourth, Ovince St. Preux, put up 99 points, so one shy of triple digits. And then also Chan Mi Jian got bringing in 47.5, and Shinzo Nzai got 63.5, 582 total points. Wes Riddle is a ton. I did fairly decently as well. Me and Wes had many similar players. I also had 100-point scores along with Ovince St. Preux. The difference here was I backed Enrique de Silva over Gokhan Saki, and that, my friend, did not pay dividends. 10 points for there, and that is the major difference between me and Wes Riddle. Nick, you had a really rough go of things. Juicy Formiga was the only guy on your team who did anything worth shit. Everybody else just laying out turds for a collective score of 285 points. Once again, bringing up the rear in DraftKings, but a saving grace for you, sir. 2 events in a row. you have come in hot with your bonus prediction game. Last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago, you predicted Gadea Andrade would be fight of the night, and that Ovince St. Preux and Jussier Formiga would get performance of the night bonuses. The fight of the night call was correct. Andrade Gadea was, in fact, the fight of the night that evening. And Ovince St. Preux, for his third Ovince von Preux choke, I guess we're going to call it now, recorded a performance bonus. The other performance bonus that evening was Gokhan Saki in that war with Frankenstein. That was, man, I gotta say, Frankenstein had him on the ropes, and I would have been the DraftKings winner, and you would have lost because Gokhan Saki should have got knocked out. But so c'est la vie. Wes Riddle also turned in one successful prediction there. Gokhan Saki was one of his picks for performance of the night bonus, along with I have no idea who that is written, but it's not correct. That might be Formiga. I can't tell my own handwriting at this point. And he predicted Formiga Sasaki would be fight of the night. He was incorrect there. I also had Gadea Andrade as the fight of the night. I split that win with you there. I had Jussier Formiga along with you. I think we both, Formiga could have warranted a performance bonus. That was an absolute shit kicking, but last no dice there. And I had Hyungu Lim as my final performance bonus winner. No dice for me, but no, I didn't. I'm sorry. I had Dong Hyun Kim because I thought he was going to do exactly what he did. Another great showing. Not quite enough to get a performance bonus. Sorry, I misread my handwriting there. That is everything from last week or 2 weeks ago, and now we're ready to move on.
Well, I don't know if you could just hear that scream in the background. That sounds fun. Let us forget about that and let us move right along to UFC 216. Goes down from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And I guess before we get to that,
it's pretty fantastic that there's just a girl screaming in the background, and you're just like, pay no attention to that, guys. Don't worry. Don't worry about those screams you heard.
That wasn't a thing that actually happened. That was your imagination.
NBD, nothing to see here. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. All right.
Yes, it did not happen. I did not have a sister, or I do not have a sister, I should say, who's clearly upset about something that's probably just really nothing. So again, let's clear that out of our minds. Did not happen. UFC 216 goes down from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada this weekend, Saturday, October 7th. The interim lightweight title is on the line. Tony Ferguson, El Kakui meets the Motown Phenom. Possibly, should this guy get past Ferguson, could be the next big thing, perhaps. Kevin Lee, of course, his attire at the media day, some liked it, some didn't. It was still interesting. Not either way you looked at it. And the guy has personality, but he has a tough test against Ferguson. Ferguson's really, really, tricky. He's a great fighter, and ultimately, it's a really fun fight. We also have, of course, the flyweight championship on the line. Mighty Mouse Demetrius Johnson defends for the 11th time against Ray the Taz Mexican Devil Borg in history-making title fight. Should he get the win, he surpasses Anderson Silva's consecutive title record in the UFC. Will have defended it 11 times compared to Anderson's 10. And, we saw what happened when Anderson tried to defend it 11th time. He got knocked out in the second round to big underdog Chris Weidman. Can the same happen here?
Well,
probably not. Probably not.
Yes and no. Because
Anderson did have the light heavyweight fight. Is that what you're getting at?
No. I wasn't getting at that. I was getting at Anderson had a title defense that didn't go down as a title defense when middleweight tough winner the Michael Jordan of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Why am I blanking on his name right now? Do you not have any idea what I'm talking about?
I was thinking Stephen Bonner.
No, because Stephen Bonner's light heavyweight. Give me like 3 seconds, and I'm gonna remember it, and then feel like an asshole because I don't know why. Travis Lutter, his actual first scheduled title defense after knocking out Rich Franklin to claim the belt, was supposed to be a title defense. Lutter missed weight, came in at 187 pounds. Lutter also won that first round, got a takedown, had mount for a minute, and then ended up getting submitted in the second round by Anderson. So tack on one more title defense for Anderson. It's not really his fault, but frankly, we could see something similar happen here to Demetrius Johnson, as Ray Borg, known for missing weight, and honestly, hearing some chatter sounds like it might be skeptical about him making weight for tomorrow. So we'll see. We'll see how things shake out here. Could be something similar for DJ though, which would be wild if that happened.
Fingers are crossed, just because I don't want to go through what we went through less than a month ago again, but we will find out in less than 24 hours if that is indeed the case. Yeah, overall, it's a pretty decent pay-per-view card. Before all of that, let us start on the UFC Fight Pass early prelim, starting at 6:15 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We have Matt Schnell taking on Marco Beltran in a 125-pound matchup. If I recall correctly, I think this is Beltran's perhaps his flyweight debut. Schnell dropped down after his debut on short notice against Rob Font, about a year ago or so now, I believe. Might have been early 2017. I don't know. Can't keep track of all these fights. Schnell, Beltran, who's the pick?
You are incorrect, sir. Beltran's last fight versus Davison Alcantara.
All right. Well, I know nothing.
Was his flyweight debut, but close effort here. Honest, let's just call this what it is. Not a great fight between two guys who, frankly, aren't all that good. I mean,
controversial statement from Jed Meshew over here.
Yeah, I know. I'm coming in with the hot takes early, but this is a fight that how many fights are on this card? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
13,
6, 7,
I think.
8, 9, 10. It looks like 14 fights are on this card to me, which basically makes me think that this
is 13.
Are you sure?
5 + 4 + 4, unless I can't do
1,
math.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've got 14. Maybe did a fight
Does it have the Van Zandt eye fight, perhaps?
Oh, I do have the Van Zandt eye. That is correct.
There you go.
There we go. That's the difference maker then. So, yeah, 13 fights on this card, which is still a lot. 14 is way too much, and these guys they're not that good here. That's all I got as far as any type of breakdown that I give a shit about making on this. I just don't care. Give me Schnell because he can wrestle a little bit, and Beltran has fought several times in the UFC and hasn't really shown a great defensive wrestling capabilities. So yeah, just that's it. But anything could happen. I just don't give a shit.
Yeah, I'm going Schnell here too, but I'm not going to spend any more time than Jed did. I think he's a bit better on the feet. I think the grappling's close. I probably favor Beltran, just individually solely on the mat, but I think Schnell can keep it standing. He has a lot higher output on there, but he also has very bad striking defense. So if Beltran has tightened up his punching ability a little bit, could be a tough night for Schnell, but I think the odds are where they should be. It's close. Schnell slightly favored. I like him here, probably by decision. But if there's a finish either on either side, I won't be that surprised. But Schnell decision is the official pick from me.
Also, I should note that Wesley Riddle, despite once again leaving us high and dry, has sent his picks along with him. And for this opening card fight, he has predicted Matt Schnell with a second round submission. So take that for what it's worth, but it's all three of us are on Schnell, which odds have it pretty close. So that's maybe we're just boring and lame. I'm not sure, but yeah, there you go.
All right, next up, we got a middleweight fight against Thales Ladies, Brazilian, and Brad Tavares from the United States of America, specifically Hawaii. The kind of a weird, typical middleweight fight. I know. Who is it? It's Mookie and Phil McKenzie and Zane and all those guys that the classic middleweight fight. This is sort of in that realm of middleweight matchups.
Yeah, maybe a little bit higher level. I mean, Thales Laitis is a guy who's been a top 10-ish middleweight for like a decade or some shit. And Brad Tavares has, been hanging around in that same area. But, yeah, I mean, it's a fight between guys that are really competent and not great athletes, which is sort of what middleweight is. It's the nexus of the skills of the lower division, the lower weight classes, meeting the unathleticism of the higher, like the general person in the higher weight divisions. So yeah, Brad Tavares, Tyler Slates. I believe Tavares is the favorite here. I'm not. I know. Yeah, that's right. I just looked it up. Tavares is the favorite here, and that makes sense in a lot of ways. Tavares basically does his like kickboxing thing pretty well. Like he does that middleweight cardio kickboxing thing. He's pretty solid at defending takedowns. Gonna pump a jab, work a lot of volume, maybe some low kicks thrown in there, and win on points. That's sort of his milieu. I don't know the last time he got a stoppage win, if ever, in the UFC. I cannot recall any off the top of my head, certainly. But when we're talking about Brad Tavares, we're talking about a guy who basically has only lost to high level middleweights. Like his last loss was Robert Whitaker, Yoel Romero, and then Tim Boetsch. Tim Boetsch is sort of an outlier there, but Tim Boetsch is sort of an outlier in life, especially in the middleweight division, in that he just kind of beats up people randomly that you wouldn't expect. So, and if they ran that fight back, you'd probably pick Brad Tavares. I'm assuming. So yeah, Talis Leites is going to be a bigger dude. He's a little older though. He's not going to throw as much volume. He's not a very good wrestler, so he's just going to shoot and fail and lose a cardio kickboxing bout to Brad Tavares. Give me Tavares by decision.
I think I might go the other way. I like Talis Leites grappling to defeat Brad Tavares. I know Tavares typically has okay takedown defense. It's nothing atrocious. According to UFC.com, 73.44% takedowns defended. That's actually very respectable for an average UFC fighter like Tavares is. But ladies, it can be much more dangerous, compared to, say, where Tavares is the best on the feet. He just doesn't throw knockout punches. Tavares, ladies really can be dangerous on the mat. We saw, go back to the Chris Camozzi fight a little while back, on the back for so long, finally sunk in that rear naked choke. Ladies really isn't all that, he's a solid fighter. He loses to top competition. He loses to fighters he should lose to, Christoph Jotko. That was a little surprising, but, Jotko's certainly a very talented fighter. Before that, ladies had beat Camozzi. He's coming off the win over Sam Alvey. A little while back, he lost to Gegard Mousasi. His last three losses are to Christoph Jotko, Gegard Mousasi, and Michael Bisping. That's nothing to be ashamed of. And before that, he hadn't lost, I believe it might have been since 2009. So, the guy's a good fighter. Brad Tavares isn't a bad fighter either. He doesn't do much, and not saying Ladies is some super active, great guy himself, but Tavares is really, really just, kind of plodding. Like he has good cardio, but he's so ineffective. And I feel like, sure, if it stays standing, he's going to win all day. But if Ladies can grab a hold of him even just a little bit, he'll win this. He'll be able to get Tavares down, start, get on top of him, maybe, ride his back or look for some sort of choke. I like Ladies here. I like him to grind out a win here. Not super confident, but a little surprised the odds are where they are. Give me Ladies here by decision.
And on top of that, I'll start doing this after mine so we can flow a little easier, but I just keep forgetting because it's still fresh. Wesley Riddle has Talis Leites by decision as well. So this is our first showing of dissent. I am breaking from the two of you. You guys are both picking an underdog though, so that's interesting and exciting. Getting the mix in early, so that's fun.
Yes, sir. Next up, we got a flyweight matchup between John Chicano Moraga. I don't know why I butchered Chicano. I don't know why I butchered a fairly simple nickname for a veteran flyweight Moraga, but nonetheless, he's taking on Magomed Bibulatov, who his biggest claim to fame is, besides winning
a piece of shit.
Well, that's what I was getting to. Besides winning the WSOF belt, he also associates with him with one Ramzan Kadyrov, so that's nothing good at all, like really at all. Anyone that does that, you have to question their motives and how they're actually.
Don't worry, we'll get to another one of those later on in the fucking card.
Do we? Oh yes, Fabricio Verdun. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, we fucking do.
Anyways, Bibulatov, big favorite here. I know, I guess you're rooting against him, and I think at this point maybe that's fair. But do you think he does get past John Moraga?
Yeah, he gets past John Moraga. John Moraga is not a very good fighter. John Moraga was never a great fighter and is on a pretty rough skid. His last fight was a win over Oscar Mokhtarian, before that, lost 3 in a row. Granted, he lost to Sergio Pettis and Joseph Benavidez in that 3. Those are, among the top 5 fighters in the division, but I just don't see it, man. It's Maraga's going to go down as one of those guys that is really, really weird to think that he was a title challenger, and he's probably like him and like I don't know what Chris Carriasso are like the people when you bag on Demetrius Johnson's title reign, like those are the first names get thrown out. Like, oh, he fought John Moraga, but yeah, Magomed Biblatov is a pretty shitty guy, but it's this thing about the sport we follow and watch and participate in. Shitty people oftentimes are very good at inflicting violence onto other human beings. So Magomed Biblatov going to win this, going to kickbox the shit out of him over the course of 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
and because I said I was going to do this better, I'm going to do this better. Wesley Riddle, our esteemed colleague, concurs with my assessment to a degree. He also has Magomed Biblatov winning. He has a 3rd round submission, though. So we are 2 in the books for Magomed Biblatov. Nicholas, bring us home on the giant piece of shit.
On the giant piece of shit, the guy is a big favorite, but I think the line is ever so slightly off. I think, my 3-1 might be a bit more fair, not quite 4.5 to 1, I think is where I saw it at last. The guy, you give him his credit, Bibulatov's a solid fighter. And John Moraga, I give Moraga a bit, I'm slightly more high on Moraga, or was, I guess it's probably better to say, on Moraga than you are. I think at one time Moraga was actually a pretty solid fighter, but he's gone down so much. He's talked about concussion issues. I know that was more closer to after the Benavidez fight. That's why he had a little, quite the layoff. And so that's, 2 years ago already, but, it doesn't always go away. And I think that could be part of his decline, just the fact that he's had a number of fights. He's been in the game for a number of years. He's been at the top. He's fallen off the top. It's just not John Moraga's time anymore, and not saying it really ever was, but it certainly isn't now. He's being thrown in here against Magomed Biblatov because they know Biblatov can win. I don't really know why they want Biblatov to succeed. That really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I feel like there's some sort of clear answer here, but I just can't find it. Why do you want someone, connected to Kadyrov doing well and in the promotion?
Because they do not consider that at all. It does not play into anyone's thought process in that building because generously you could describe most of the higher up brass folk in the UFC as, I guess WME IMG now, as amoral shitbags. They don't care and are not going to make a principled stand on damn near anything. So, I would not be surprised. These are people that have repeatedly employed sex offender, violent sex offenders and shit. And I'm not mistaken, right? They had briefly signed a dude who had neo-Nazi tattoos before that finally came back and bit him in the ass, and then they undid that, right? But fucking Cody East fought 3 times or something for promotion. They don't give a fuck, and that's shit. They take that's fucking politics out of sport or whatever that bullshit goddamn saying is. They stick to sports in the extreme. And so one of these days, we're going to have a ton of fucking Kadyrov fighters in some show in St. Petersburg, and it's going to be disgusting. This shit bothers me.
Before I continue with Moraga Biblatov, Liam Hughes from the YouTube comment says, Jed looks bigger. Weird. I thought he would be getting smaller with the marathon training.
I definitely am. So I don't know. It might just be my setup or whatever, but yeah.
Put on your glasses. Twitter shit, Liam Hughes.
Nah, I mean, I've lost 20 pounds training for this marathon already, so 100% okay. I'm getting smaller.
Yeah,
I was never a big guy anyway, but when you run a shitload every day, weight just falls off you. So
Yeah, Liam also adds
Thanks.
earlier. He says there's another viewer. As of the second, there's 2 people watching. Thank you to 2 people. We appreciate it. He
Don't put
says,
us on blast like that, dog.
will they say hello, referring to the other viewer? I'm okay with just pestering the host, though. Not the first time, haha. Jed never responds, reacts. It's like a game to me, so that's always fun. But anyways, back to Muraga Bibulatov. Keep those comments coming, Liam. We of course appreciate them. Bibulatov going to grind on Muraga. They're putting him in here for a reason, because I guess they see he's Russian and he has an undefeated record and he's a bit of a name, partly because of Kadyrov, partly because of WSOF, and throw him in here against the veteran who on paper looked like a pretty decent win. But I think Bibulatov was just going to take him down and grind him out. Muraga has good grappling. From bottom, he tapped out Justin Scoggins a little while back, but I think Bibulatov's too good to get trapped in something. And if he wants to keep this standing, I mean, he's not a great, his claim to fame is mostly his wrestling, I would think. But if he wants to stand and trade with Muraga, I don't think Muraga can easily appoint him.
I think he was like an ISKA champion or whatever, like a point karate champion. I think I'm not 100% on that, but that vaguely rings a bell.
Interesting. Well, anyways, the pick here, Bibulatov by decision. I don't expect this fight to be, super, super special, although a couple kind of big names, so, might be worth the watch. Next up, the feature fight past early prelim. Walt, the big ticket Harris, taking on Mark, the Hand of God Beer, in a pivotal, not so pivotal, heavyweight matchup. Jed, Walt Harris, or the underdog, Mark God Beer.
I can't believe this is the fucking feature any fight. That is... Oh god, that's not terrible. This fight's bad because it's heavyweight MMA. Can we just kind of leave it there? Like, I don't know, man. Walt Harris is a way better athlete and hits harder than Mark Godbeer, and I don't think a whole hell of a lot of Mark Godbeer in general as a fighter. That being said, it's not like Walt Harris is fucking stellar either. I'm gonna pick Walt Harris just because I think like I said, he hits harder. He's a better athlete, probably faster hands. He doesn't throw as much volume, though, and, it's very possible that if he can't get Godbeer out of there, he gets tired and Godbeer wins late. But I am going with Harris by early KO, and our esteemed colleague Wesley Riddle concurs with me. He has Walt Harris by KO/TKO in the very first round.
Yeah, not much else to add. Walt Harris is by far the better striker here. Give me him by first round TKO or knockout. Godbeer, just neither guy is super great. Well, neither guy is good really at all. But I think Harris, I'm training at ATT. He's looking a bit better. He's coming off a couple straight wins. Looked decent as of late. Godbeer, not so much. His first UFC win in his last fight. Really was not anything to write home about. And before that, he got choked out by Justin Ledette. The pick here is Harris. He's a better striker. He has a bit more power. And I think he's slightly bigger, too. He has a height advantage. The reach is equal, so that's interesting. But Harris, nonetheless, TKO round 1 is my pick. Moving on to the FX prelims. They started 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Got Pearl Gonzalez taking on newcomer Poliana Potelho at the strawweight division. Gonzalez or the Brazilian, Jed?
Dude, I can't even pretend like I have any idea who Poliano is. All I can remember of Pro Gonzalez is obviously the Calvillo fight. And Cynthia Calvillo is, a hot shot prospect. I guess one of, if not the hottest prospect in the women's strawweight division at the moment. And Gonzalez, I'm trying to remember that fight, and I don't really recall anything. Can you refresh my memory? Do you remember what happened there? How did she acquit herself in that contest?
Hold on. Who?
Pro Gonzalez versus Cynthia Calvillo. Yeah. How did Gonzalez look? I feel like that fight was closer than
Yeah. You walk away from that thinking, okay, Calvillo was supposed to be the next big thing, so she still is. It's great, but Gonzalez showed some good things, and she might have something herself. That's what I took away.
Yeah, that's sort of how I remember it. She's a 10th planet fighter, I think, as far as jiu-jitsu goes. So she's got that sort of fun, wonky Eddie Bravo jit style. I don't know a damn thing about Poliana Mateo,
I think
but she
I
is the
heard
favorite,
about
which
I heard about
is
Porteo that she's 5-1. All 5 wins are knockout TKO. I heard she's like a bull. I think they said something about Jessica Andrade. I think she might even train with Andrade. That I saw something. It could be this person. I don't remember. John Lineker comparisons. This girl, Gonzalez might be in for a rude awakening.
I mean,
It's
the thing is, I just have no idea. The one factoid I know is that Poliana Boteo, fuck, I'm butchering her name, I'm sure. Sorry. Poliana Boteo was the champion of an organization called Favela Fight. So that's kind of hilarious and awesome to me. That's just a great name. But other than that, I got nothing here. She is a natural 125er and going to have a bit of a size advantage coming in here. But give me the known product. I'm going to take the underdog just because I know at least a little bit about her. I'm going to take Pro Gonzalez to use that grappling game. I could totally be wrong. I would not bet any type of money or anything behind this. But I've got Pro Gonzalez by decision. And our esteemed colleague Wesley Riddle also has the exact same prediction. Pro Gonzalez by decision. Nicholas, bring us home.
Give me Poliano Botella because the odds makers know more than I do, and I've heard she's kind of vicious in there. So I know Gonzalez looked good. So I still think Gonzalez can make this close. But no, I don't know much about either fighter. I know a bit more about Pearl because I've seen her fight it once. But give me Botella. Let's go out on a bit of a limb. I don't know how. Just considering she's won all her fights by TKO, let's go late TKO. Next up, we got one of the better fights on the card. Groovy Lando Venata taking on Bobby King Green in the 155-pound division. Jed, do you like the favorite here, Venata, or the underdog, Bobby King Green?
Ooh, this is a close one. So my head is sort of telling me to pick Bobby Green here because I think that Bobby Green is a guy who is a maddeningly frustrating fighter. For a lot of people, he could be. I sort of think of him maybe a little bit like Masvidal. Think about him like that. He's got a lot of technical skills, but sometimes he just cruises or he makes puzzling decisions that end up costing him fights. That being said, he hasn't really made a lot of puzzling decisions that have cost him fights in his last go around. He's just lost a bunch lately. And that's enough for me to pick against him here. Lando Venata is not a wonderkin. He's an exciting, fun guy. I don't think he's ever going to challenge for a title. I think he's got a pretty clear ceiling, but he can be a really fun guy, a fringe top 15 lightweight for a few years coming. Bobby Green is getting older, on the decline, I believe. You've seen his last few fights. He hasn't looked as good. And basically, I think he's a little more defensively sound than Lando. And my concern here would be this fight looks like the Tamer fight. Maybe Lando gets outclassed a little bit just from a technical thing. But Bobby Green also does this shit where he'll like do the Nate Diaz and mug at you, but he won't do it with purpose or effect. He just does it and dicks around and then gets hit a bunch, which is stupid and not an effective strategy and always bothers the hell out of me. So give me Lando Venata. Groovy going to come in. I think this goes the full 15, though. But yeah, give me Groovy Lando Venata. And our colleague, Wesley Riddle, feeling a lot more confident than I. He has Groovy Lando Venata with an early first round stoppage, KO, TKO victory. So we've got 2 in the books for Venata. Bring us home. Is it unanimous, Nicholas?
It is. I got to go Lando Venata here, and pretty confident. Bobby Green, if this, was happening a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have known who Lando is, and Bobby Green had just been coming off, a win over Josh Thompson. Looked like he could be the next big thing, so to speak, and now it's not quite vice versa, but Bobby Green is certainly going right on the decline, and Lando Venata seems to go, up. He is coming off a loss. He's 1-2 in the UFC, but that doesn't that doesn't explain Lando's UFC career. The loss to Tony Ferguson, no shame. The guy's headlining this card for a reason. He's fighting for the interim title for a reason. He's a great fighter, one of the best lightweights, if not the best lightweight on the planet right now. And Lando took it to him. He looked good in that fight, in defeat. And then the loss to David Tamer was surprising, but Tamer, I think, after that, could be a really, pretty decent up-and-coming fighter himself. So, he's had an interesting career, topped off by the one win, huge spinning kick win, knockout win over John McDessie last December, just incredible. The best knockout of the year, I believe, is what I called it, if I recall correctly. Bobby Green, he's so unreliable. I know he's had a lot of personal issues, a lot of, deaths in his family, and not, very, very sad stuff and nothing good. But when it comes down to fighting, he's very mentally, sometimes he's affected, sometimes he's ready to go, and you just don't know, will Bobby Green show up tonight? And that's something we can't be asking ourselves if we're favoring that fighter. He's been up and down. He's been inactive. He's had fights here, fights there, then injuries and all that. I like Lando. I think he's a lot more active on the feet. I think he doesn't play around like Green does. I know you mentioned Green does the Diaz stuff, but doesn't actually act afterwards. He just does the Diaz stuff without an actual purpose or damage or offense. But Banana messes around a little bit. He's funky, but he does throw a lot. He lands a lot. He's a wild fighter, but he's pretty effective at that. Green, again, he can make fights boring sometimes, especially as of late. Can't just trust the guy anymore. He's technically a bit better, but that's not going to be enough when the guy barely throws. Give me Lando Venata by unanimous decision. Next up, we got Will Brooks taking on former American top team teammate at lightweight Nick Lentz. Ill Will, the former Bellator champion, might need a win here if he wants to stick around. I'm not so sure he'd get cut with another loss, but could be that case. Could be looking like that. Should he come up short against the underdog, the Carney? Who do you got here, Will Brooks or Nick Lentz?
Well, I gotta say, I think that this bodes pretty well for Will Brooks, that he is not fighting a guy named Oliveira, because he has fought Oliveira's in his last two fights, and he has been stopped in his last two fights. Instead, he's fighting the least Oliveira human ever, Nicholas Lentz. And I am 100% picking Will Brooks. I think this is a pretty straightforward affair. I could be colored by the fact that I'm not a huge fan of Nick Lentz as a person, but that is neither here nor there. Yes, sir. I just got a touchdown in my fantasy league, which is just delightful because it's big time right there. Big time Chris Hogan reeling in that TD pass. But to continue my breakdown of the fight, sorry. Will Brooks is going to be a bigger dude than Nick Lentz. Nick Lentz was a featherweight for a while. He throws a lot more on the feet. He's just a better striker on the feet. Nick Lentz really wants to be able to play a grinder style for the most part. And he's just taking Will Brooks down is not a really successful plan for most people, unless you are Oliveira and 80 billion times bigger than him and can just moose him down with raw physicality. Nick Lentz can't do that. That's the story of this fight, man. Will Brooks probably by decision. Nick Lentz is a tough dude. Make no mistake about that. Our colleague Wesley Riddle agrees with me. He has it exactly the same. Will Brooks by decision. So once again, me and Wes Riddle are in agreement. You get to bring us home. Is it unanimous, or are you going to split up for the second time? Because you split from me and Wes once before with the Mateo fight. How are you feeling this time? Is it unanimous?
No, or yes, it is. I like Ill Will Brooks. He's the former Bellator champ. He's just, technically and all around a better fighter than Nick Lentz. He should be able to grind out Nick Lentz. Lentz is really good on the mat, or pretty good anyways. Brooks has gotten caught on the mat, certainly in his last fight, but that Charles Oliveira is on a different level in the jiu-jitsu department than Nick Lentz, if we're being honest, of course. Brooks it has really good wrestling. He should be able to grind up Lentz and stay on top without getting caught in something off, from Lentz's back or whatever. I think Brooks, he's not terrific on the feet. He's not, great by any means, but nor is Lentz. Brooks still should be able to outpoint Lentz if it's on the feet. I struggle to see where this is any sort of entertainment. Honestly, I mean, if this is on the,
it's not.
If this is on the feet, neither guy is very good at striking, so that's not going to be all that fun. Very unlikely. And on the mat, if Lentz is able to grab a foot and make all these transitions and scramble and all that, okay, he could make it fun, but no, I mean, it's going to be Brooks on top of Lentz until the buzzer goes. So I'm not super thrilled, to see this fight, but I think Brooks gets the job done. He needs a win here badly. I think he gets it done over his former teammate. I think that's the most interesting angle here is that, both up until just a few months, earlier this year, they trained at ATT in Coconut Creek, Florida. So they know a lot about each other. They know a lot about each other. And so that's going to be interesting. The only other point I want to make is that Lentz, since leaving ATT, he has joined Combat Club with Henry Hooft. I'm interested to see, has his striking gone better? Henry Hooft is a terrific stand-up coach. Has that, changed Lentz's striking for the better already? We will find out. But, I can't base a prediction off of speculation like that. I guess this is all speculation, but I can't just guess if Lentz's striking is better. So Brooks is the better fighter. He should take the W here by decision. Next up, we got a really awesome bantamweight matchup between Tom Duquesnoy, the Fire Kid, and Cody Stamann, the Spartan. Both guys are 15-1. The only difference in the records is Duquesnoy has won no contest. Stamann, for the most part, he's really good on the ground. He's a really good wrestler. We saw that. That was the big difference in his debut against Tyrion Ware. Fairly even on the feet, but Stamann just kept taking him down. Duquesnoy, incredible on the feet, flashy. His nickname's the Fire Kid for good reason, but his biggest flaw right now as a young fighter, as an up-and-comer, as a potential superstar in the making, is his takedown defense. It's getting better. It's not amazing. He was taken down twice against Patrick Williams in his debut, who's a good wrestler, but Stamann's probably better. So interesting fight here, closer than maybe some people think. Who do you got?
I actually basically firmly disagree with almost everything, right, that was said right there. I got Tom Duquesnoy all day. And I understand the belief, like the feeling that we want to temper our expectations here. Cody Stamann is a talented young prospect as well. I know that he doesn't train with them, but kind of in that team alpha male build of creative fighter where he's short and stocky and throws an overhand right a lot, but has strong wrestling game. Duquesnoy has a background in wrestling. His before he turned into, the Fire Kid that was nuking people on the feet, he was primarily a grappler. He did a bunch of some amateur wrestling accolades. That's really where he did. I mostly put the Pat Williams kind of, I won't say troubles, but the takedowns that he conceded to Patrick Williams to be the fact that Patrick Williams is huge and a good wrestler. And kind of the book on Patrick Williams has always been that he comes out early, gets tired late. And so I think when we were even breaking that fight down, I might have even said I expected Pat Williams to have some success early and then kind of fade and let Duquesnoy's class and athleticism show out. And that's sort of how that fight, kind of broke down. I think that maybe we could expect something similar because Stamann is a good athlete. He's a plus athlete and a powerful wrestler. But I think Duquesnoy is kind of just better everywhere here. I think he should be able to keep it on the feet if he wants to. I think he can maybe even work takedowns on Stamann to a degree. And I think he is just far more violent, a far more dynamic threat and a finisher. If Stamann comes out, makes a big jump, and shows out here, I won't be super surprised. But I love Fire Kid here. I think I got him all day walking away. And interestingly enough, Wesley Riddle disagrees with me. He is on the Stamen train. He has Stamen by decision, I would suppose, so we didn't talk about it. My guess would be that he is sharing your concerns with Duquesnoy's youth and perhaps his defensive wrestling questions that are kind of circling around him now. Maybe thinks that Stamen can take advantage of that because he has him by decision. That seems like the way that would happen. But why don't you wax poetic, Nick? We're split. Break the tie for us. Who do you have, the Fire Kid or Stamen?
Well, for this prediction, Jed, you are smarter than Wes. I got Tom Duquesnoy here, and kind of to clarify, I mean, I'm pretty confident in Tom Duquesnoy. I give Stamen, a slim chance, but not a huge one by any means. I guess maybe I made it sound like it was a closer fight than it really is. Maybe to hype it up, even though
the
that's
odds have it as a close fight.
I mean, the odds have it. I was surprised to see Duquesnoy opened. It was near even. I think Duquesnoy saw at one point minus 115. I was shocked. I mean, I didn't see him opening like at minus 800 or whatever, but I thought it would be a bit wider for Duquesnoy, considering he was a huge favorite against Patrick Williams, who sure is a lesser fighter than Stamen, but not by miles and miles. The thing with Stamen here is, what I was getting at regarding his takedowns and the possibility of him grinding out a win. I don't think it's all that likely, but the possibility is there. That is his one, his one path to victory, his one key to victory. Taking Duquesnoy down is what Stamen needs to do if he wants to win this fight. It's simple as that. He's not going to outstrike Duquesnoy. He has a very slim chance of like a puncher's chance knockout, flash knockout, lucky punch, whatever you want to call it. Duquesnoy is much better on the feet. He's a lot quicker. He's a lot sharper. He does things that other fighters don't do, and I really think Tom Duquesnoy is going to go far in this division. I don't see the same out of Cody Stamen. He's also 15-1. He's a top prospect, but I don't, the fire is not in him like it is in the Fire Kid. He doesn't have that flash. He doesn't have that not even marketability, but he doesn't have that aura about him that Duquesnoy does that makes him such a hot prospect. Duquesnoy's legit. He's getting better, and I like him all day here. Give me Tom Duquesnoy. By decision, I think it goes the distance. Stamen is tough. I don't think he knocks Cody Stamen out. I think I think it'll be mostly one-way traffic for Duquesnoy as long as he's able to defend the takedowns. That's what this fight comes down to. If he does, all day Tom Duquesnoy decision. All right, we move on to the UFC 216 main card live on pay-per-view this Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We kick things off in the lightweight division. Beneil Dariush taking on, the guy that once was a top lightweight up-and-comer, and now he's a vet who has kind of come out of nowhere and has made himself into – he's number 14 in the world right now. He's actually a pretty good fighter. Evan Dunham, pretty interesting matchup. Stylistically could be pretty fun. Jed Dariush, the favorite, or do you think Evan Dunham comes out as the underdog yet again?
I'm taking Evan Dunham, and I'm on the underdog. Here's the thing. Evan Dunham, you said, was a top prospect. He was, and if you look at his losses, they are mostly to top shelf fighters. He lost a bullshit split decision to Sean Shirk. He lost to Melvin Guillard at the time when Melvin Guillard was kind of icing people and was, like a mini Anthony Johnson, that if he touched you, you just fell over and died. And if you could survive getting fallen out like that initial thing and take him down, then you could win. But, it was still early in Dunham's career. He got iced. Then he lost to TJ Grant, the great what if of the lightweight division in the last, 5 years probably. Should have had a title shot, never fought again. Rafael dos Anjos, there's clearly no shame in losing to Rafael dos Anjos, former champion. Seems like he's likely to be the next welterweight title challenger as well. Donald Cerrone, Edson Barbosa. We all know on this show, I'm big on Edson Barbosa train, think he's going to hold the title soon. But since that kind of like rough stretch of his career where he lost 4 out of 5, he's put together 4 wins. Rodrigo Dam, Ross Pearson, Joe Lozon, Rick Glenn. It's not like a ton of elite top shelf fighters there, like the best of the best. But we're talking Joe Lozon's a top 15, 20-ish guy. Rodrigo Dam's a talented fighter. Ross Pearson, a little washed at this point, but still, a fairly good fighter. Same with Rick Glenn. And in that same space of time, Beneil Dariush he gets you more excited. Look, I was on Benny Dariush for a while. I was on that hype train. I wanted it to be a thing, and I've been burnt by him too many times is basically where I'm going with this, man. You expect great things from him, and he is so unconcerned about what's happening in the cage in front of him that it costs him fights sometime. And in this case, I think that's the case here. If Dariush gets Evan Dunham down, the fight's probably in a really bad way for Evan Dunham. Dariush is a world-class grappler. But if he doesn't, and I don't know that he'll be able to, Evan Dunham has very good takedown defense. And on the feet, Evan Dunham he throws way more and maybe with a little less power, but I think he's just as good skill-wise, but he just has a ton more volume. I think this is a really close fight. So, if you take Beneil Dariush, like, spoiler alert, our colleague Wesley Riddle has taken Beneil Dariush. He has Dariush by decision. I'm going the other end of that. I think either choice is fine, but for me, I think this is going to be the biggest win of Evan Dunham's, arguably his career, and certainly of the last 5 years for him. Evan Dunham by decision. Break the tie for us, Nick. Which way are you going?
Well, this time you're not the smarter one. Give me the favorite, Beneil Dariush. I like him not a lot in this fight, but enough to give him the nod. Evan Dunham is scrappy. The guy is, a veteran's veteran. The guy is legitimate, and he's a good fighter. But Beneil Dariush, I think, in especially on the mats, is on a different level. Evan Dunham is pretty solid everywhere. He's well-rounded. He can definitely take a punch. He can throw a punch with precision. He's scrappy, and he throws a lot. He's also really good on the mat. But Beneil Dariush is a fantastic grappler. He is, incredible in the jiu-jitsu department, and that's what made Michael Chiesa's rear naked choke over Dariush just incredible. More than incredible from last year. This time, though, I don't think Dunham will catch Dariush in some wild submission like that. I just don't see that happening. I think Dariush, he's a better grappler. He should be able to out-grapple Dunham. I think he ends up on top of Dunham. I don't think Dariush spends a ton of time on the feet with Dunham because it's closer there. I think Dariush is almost as good of a striker, if not better than Dunham. They're really close in technique on the feet, but Dunham does throw a bit more, and that would make me think that Dunham does find a bit more success on the feet over the course of 15 minutes. But this is MMA. Takedowns are a thing, and although, as you said, Dunham has pretty good takedown defense, actually really good, 80.56% defended in the UFC. That again, that's really, really good. But Dariush on a different level with his grappling game. Pretty solid at takedowns. I think he finds a way to get Dunham down, and from there, it's just sort of the grind from Dariush, and I think he starts to dominate from whenever that happens. Give me Dariush by decision. I'll say 29-28. I think Dunham sneaks it around, but drops the other two. Next up, we got a fight, again, don't know a whole lot about, and whole lot means practically nothing. 125 pounds on short notice. Newcomers Mara Romero Borella taking on Kalindra Faria. The only thing I know about this fight is that Faria is the Titan FC champion. That's the only thing I know. She's coming off a win over Karina Dam. At least I think that was her last fight. I cannot confirm. Jed, you got to pick?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to pick Faria, but I'm picking Faria literally because she's a minus 210 favorite, and I assume the books know what they're going about. I know zero things about these fighters. I have no idea why this fight is on this card, and certainly why it's on the pay-per-view portion. That is baffling to me. If you have any type of information to elucidate on why that might be, I would appreciate it. But yeah, give me Faria purely because she is the betting favorite by a clear margin. And I would venture to say that Wes Riddle is thinking the exact same thing because he has Faria by decision.
Yeah, give me Feria. Just because I know who she is and I've seen her fight one time and she's decent at fighting. Barella, I know absolutely nothing about. I Fernanda Pranches from MMA Junkie had a really good story out on a woman fighter who's fighting real soon. The name's all I'm just trying to think who it was, almost just out of curiosity's sake, but I'm going to leave that for later. Anyways, Fury is the pick. Decision, just because I don't know why, but decision. Whatever. I think this is on the main card because they had Van Zandt on, and this is sort of replacing that fight, and they didn't want to move someone like Duquesnoy up or whoever, but whatever. Next up, we're moving on to the big fights. Literally and figuratively, Fabricio Verdum and Vaikov Cavallo, the former UFC heavyweight champion, taking on the Black Beast himself, Derek Lewis, number 2 versus number 6, Jed Verdum Lewis. Who's the pick here in this pivotal heavyweight clash?
Come on, dog. You know who I'm picking here. It is the Black Beast all day. Give me the upset. There are multiple reasons. The first reason, we talked earlier about how Ramzan Kadyrov is a big pile of dicks, and about how Magomed Bibulatov is, by virtue of his association with Ramzan Kadyrov, also a big pile of dicks. Well, Fabricio Verdum is worse than Magomed Bibulatov because Magomed Bibulatov doesn't really have a choice. I think that he would make the same decisions anyway. From everything he said, it seems like he likes Ramzan Kadyrov as a human being, as a sponsor, as a benefactor or whatever. But even if he didn't, he wouldn't really. He's in a much different set of circumstances to kind of judge everything about Kadyrov. So he grew up in the area with that, all of that pressure, social constructs around him and stuff. Fabricio Verdum just likes Ramzan Kadyrov because he makes him feel special and pretty, and he gives him a lot of money. And you can go fuck yourself if you try and justify your association with a genocidal maniac. I just do it for the sport. I don't associate with his political ideology. I just associate with his love of MMA. Nah, homie, you go and help him look more legitimate to people, and you further his political agenda by virtue of your presence. You sell your soul for money, you can go fuck yourself. And that's how I really feel. So there we go with that. But beyond the fact that Fabricio Verdum's continued relationship with one of the actual worst human beings on the planet, and the fact that he keeps doubling down on it, I also think that we've pretty clearly seen that Verdum is on a physical decline now. We saw his last fight with Overeem, which I actually thought that he beat Overeem in the fight. But I think we can see that he's dropped off, which makes sense. He's fucking 40 and he's been fighting for 15 years. And Derek Lewis, lost his last fight against Mark Hunt, but really he lost to a guy that is a much better technician on the feet than him. I think that you could argue Fabricio Verdum is a better technical striker than Derek Lewis, and I don't think that you would be wrong. But Verdum does not have the wealth of technical skill that Mark Hunt does, or the same sorts of skills. I'm not going to be surprised if Verdum comes out and puts the pressure on Derek Lewis and ends up, gassing Lewis out and either taking him down and submitting him, or just jawing him in the face and getting it done that way. That won't shock me at all. But I think we are seeing the decline in Fabricio Verdum. I think Derek Lewis is still a young dude about to hit that sort of heavyweight athletic peak, and I like him to land something big on Verdum. Verdum has historically been a really tough guy to put away. I think his chin's cracking a little bit, and if Derek Lewis lands a hammer on him, he might be able to finish. And Derek Lewis is a good finisher too. So basically, this is purely kind of I'm just shorting him. I'm shorting Fabricio Verdum. I think he's on the decline. I think Derek Lewis is on the way up, and I think we're hitting that point where their progressions intersect. And I like Derek Lewis with an early KO win. And look, just because of that, pay attention to DraftKings coming up because he's going to be on my team. But I will say that our colleague, Wesley Riddle, disagrees with me. He has it the other way. He has Fabricio Verdum scoring a KO TKO, not a submission, interestingly enough. Thinks he's going to, I guess, knock out or pound out Derek Lewis in the second round. So you are once again called to break the tie betwixt the two of us, Nicholas. Who do you have?
Well, twice in a row, the nod goes to Wes Riddle. Give me Fabricio Verdum here, the former UFC heavyweight champion. This is a close fight and one, I'm kind of looking forward to it. It could be boring. It could be fun, especially if it ends rather quickly. The reason I'm picking Verdum here, though, is he's just, he's going to be able to outpoint Lewis on the feet pretty easily, I think. He'll be able to use a lot of front kicks. Just a lot of, he's going to keep Lewis off of him, and that's what's really key here. As long as he doesn't allow Derek Lewis to get inside of him and throw some bungalows like the Black Beast likes to do, he's good. He should be able to keep Lewis off of him. He's quicker than Lewis. He's a bit more, he's more athletic than Lewis. And he's the better striker, if we're being honest. He has a few more tools. He's not as powerful, of course, but he's slightly more technical on the feet, and I like him to outpoint Lewis on the feet. He also has the option of, if Lewis takes him down for whatever reason, I don't know if that'd be the smartest choice. Verdum can also, try and get something off his back. He's really good on the mat, of course, and that's an option as well. I think he beats Lewis kind of wherever the fight goes. I suppose there's a chance Lewis is able to, takes him down in instant full mount and, pounds out Verdum real quick before Verdum can set anything up, or maybe he's wobbled or something. But besides that, or of course, a big bungalow on the feet, I just don't see Lewis taking home the victory here. I look at this like I look at the Mark Hunt fight. Hunt is honestly more technical than Verdum on the feet with his punching, but it's still similar. Verdum should be able to last a bit longer. He should, Lewis is going to tire, Verdum's not, and it's going to be similar. I don't see him finishing Lewis. If this was a 5-rounder, I think he could, but Verdum by decision is the pick. The last couple things, I do agree that Verdum is fading. I do agree that his chin is not what it once was. So if Lewis tags him, if Lewis connects, Verdum is going out. That's just a matter of fact. Verdum is declining. He's getting slower. He's not as athletic. He's not as in shape. He's 40 years old. It sort of is self-explanatory. But on the other end, Lewis, his head is just an assortment of emotions, and that's not good. He has Hurricane Harvey to deal with, or has been dealing with victims, and I thank Derek Lewis. Of course, it's fantastic what he's been doing, but arriving in Vegas with the Las Vegas shooting, and of course our hearts go to all the victims and the families and everything. It's incredibly tragic what happened on Sunday. It's beyond tragic. You can't even really describe and put that into words, but to go through everything he's gone through, from the hurricane, from hearing about the Vegas, from being in Vegas, or just arriving just after it happened, and the other catastrophes in the world, in North America right now. Of course, everyone's dealing with it, but Lewis, because he was he was so embroiled in Hurricane Harvey and helping people, he admitted in an interview with your colleague Ariel Helwani of MMAfighting.com that he's not focused. His head is not where it needs to be. He's, going in. He's going to be thinking about other things than just Fabricio Verdum. That's not necessarily good. I feel like it won't actually affect Lewis as much as other fighters, because some fighters need to be so toned in and thinking about nothing else. Where Lewis is so laid back, he's so chill, where he jokes around. So I think it won't be as bad. But that's just another reason why.
Verdum is so dialed in that he almost fought Tony Ferguson. I'm not.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just don't think that any of that matters.
I suppose when a fighter admits it, themselves, when they say "I am not focused," then it sort of, as a human being, we sort of look at that and say, "Oh, he's a lot more not," and he's a lot less focused than Verdum. But Verdum getting in a little scrap with Tony Ferguson.
I just don't think that. If Fabricio Verdum wins, it's not because Derek Lewis isn't focused. Because he's a better fighter than Derek Lewis. If Derek Lewis wins, it's because Fabricio Verdum is old and charges forward, oftentimes leaving his chin exposed, and Derek Lewis hits really hard and is going to counter his fucking face off. I just am slightly cheering for the latter and also think that there's a better than average chance that the latter happens.
Sure. Well, anyways, let's wrap that up. Verdum by decision is my pick. All right, co-main event time, the first of 2 title fights. Of course, the first and only real title fight. The flyweight championship in the UFC is on the line. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson will look to make history in a historic 11th title defense against the Taz Mexican Devil, Jackson Wink MMA's own Ray Borg. This was supposed to happen last month in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, here in the true north, UFC 215. And Borg pulled out, or he was forced off the card because he was sick. And chances are that had a little to do with cutting weight. So I guess, the first thing we need to wait and see, as we touched on earlier, does Borg make weight? Hopefully. Should it all, go down? Should they be in the cage on Saturday night? I gotta imagine you're going Johnson at this point. The guy is the greatest, or he's a pound-for-pound king, and he's well on his way to being the greatest of all time. The guy is the best fighter on the planet right now and has been for a while. Ray Borg is not on his level. At this point in time, if you're picking against Johnson, you need a damn good case to make me validate your prediction whatsoever. I imagine you're going DJ here. Let me know how.
DJ's going to win. I think this is an extremely straightforward affair. Ray Borg would have to make an enormous leap in a very short space of time. I think that there's a better than zero chance that Ray Borg misses weight. He played it extremely cagey today in interviews when asked he refused to answer what his current, weight is now, which is not a thing that instills confidence. Kevin Lee's 20 pounds overweight at the moment. But he freely told, reporters, I was like, yeah, I'm 19 pounds overweight. I have to cut 19 pounds in the next 24 hours, which, is doable. That's a big cut, mind you, but it's doable. But if Ray Borg, just was like, yeah, my weight's fine, don't worry about it.
And people's bodies work differently. For Kevin Lee, 19 pounds in one day might not be a lot. For Ray Borg, 10 in 24 hours could be a ton.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it still is a ton in general because of body mass. Sure. Like Kevin Lee weighs much more, so it's easier for him to lose weight. But just the way that they responded to those situations, when Kevin Lee says, I weigh 20 pounds more than I have to be tomorrow, but he says it, and it's just like, yeah, that's fine. You feel confident that, okay, yeah, he's well within his targets. He knows his body. He knows what he's doing. When Ray Borg is cagey and says, I'm not going to tell you my weight, don't worry, I won't have problems, but he has had a history of having problems with it, including arguably just a month ago. You don't feel confident, and I don't feel entirely confident he's going to make weight, which could be interesting and certainly a weird, wild time if that happens tomorrow, but makes weight. At the very least, it makes me think that if he's trying to make weight and it's not going well, that's only going to play even more into the many advantages Demetrius Johnson has going into this fight. I just don't see what Ray Borg does here. People are big on Ray Borg. My podcast colleague, TNG, the Naked Gambler, likes Ray Borg's chances, in the future as a contender. I'm just going to be honest. I never quite seen it. His wins are over quality guys in Jussia Formiga and Luis Smolka and Chris Kalides.
I think he'll always be in the Formiga range.
But yeah, it's just I think so. I have a great deal of respect for who Jussia Formiga is as a fighter. I also think he's an incredibly exploitable fighter for this generation of talent. What I mean by that is he is a bit of an old guard fighter. He is mostly a one-trick pony. He has added a functional kickboxing game to his repertoire, but really he's a guy who gets you on your back in wild and unpredictable ways and finishes you. And he's really good at it. So beating him you don't take anything away from beating him. But in a similar fashion to beating Demian Maia, I will give you credit to beating Demian Maia because he is an elite level fighter at his weight division. But there are a lot of middling fighters who could beat Demian Maia based purely on the fact, like, athleticism and game planning. Like, it is and it's more so with Juicy Formiga. Maia is a trickier customer than Formiga in their way. And so, like, I think that there are a lot of functional flyweights who could beat Juicy Formiga. And I think Ray Borg obviously is a athletic, talented guy. But beating Juicy Formiga does nothing to prepare you for fighting Demetrius Johnson, who is quickly rocketing up my personal list of greatest fighters of all time. I already have him in. I prefer to do tiers because it's such a tedious thing to argue like, ooh, George St. Pierre is better than Anderson Silva because of X, Y, and Z, when instead you can just be like, yeah, these guys have clearly shown themselves to be a tier above the other contemporaries in their field. So all of these guys are in the GOAT tier. DJ is already in the GOAT tier. But if you want to start ranking fighters individually in that tier, I think he's moving up the list in general, and he's still in his fucking prime. Like, he's 31, not coming up on 32. Maybe he is 32. I don't know. Somewhere in that range. And I just don't see what Ray Borg does to him here. Ray Borg can't wrestle with DJ. He's not going to – maybe he can score a takedown or two on DJ, but that's not going to yield long-term results. I think DJ can take him down. I think DJ throws more volume, more power on the feet, more technical on the feet. And I think in the clinch, DJ's the second best fighter on the planet in the clinch behind John Jones. And frankly, it's closer. That comparison is closer than you think it is, even though John Jones is the best clinch fighter we've ever seen in the history of the sport. DJ is not that far behind him. I think DJ just beats the shit out of Ray Borg every which way that this fight goes, and does that thing where he gets a stoppage later on. DJ's getting meaner the older he gets too. I think we're looking third, fourth round TKO finish after he just beats the ever-loving shit out of Ray Borg early on, and then Ray Borg starts getting even more tired. So I've got DJ with, I'll say, round 3 TKO. I could maybe round 4. And our colleague Wesley Riddle concurs. He has a round 4 submission victory though for Demetrius Johnson.
Well, I'm not going to talk about whether Johnson is the current GOAT or the GOAT, on my list or whatever. I mean, he's right up there. He's incredible to watch. He's fantastic. I mean, at this point, we say this every time. It's getting to a point where it's Johnson versus opponent, and we say the same breakdown. So I'm not going to waste tons of time going over how Ray Borg can win, because he can't. Ray Borg is not going to win this fight. This would be by far the biggest upset in MMA history if he does.
Be an upset. That would be the biggest upset in MMA history.
What would be the biggest? Matt Serra?
I mean, for the end of time, Matt Serra beating GSP, and frankly, for me, Michael Bisping knocking out.
That's actually a good one.
I think that they are 1A and 1B as far as upsets go. Like, that's just. I
think Johnson over Borg over Johnson will actually be quite a bit higher.
I think it's a huge upset. I don't think it's neither. It is 100% not Sarah St. Pierre. It's 100% not that. I personally think Bisping Rockhold is on that tier of thing, but I can understand an argument that is not the case. As a man who watched fighting at the time, St. Pierre Sarah is
sure.
It's unbelievable.
I
can't believe it happened.
I can't really comment on that just because I didn't watch fighting at the time. So nonetheless, it doesn't really matter. As I said, Johnson is good everywhere. And we come on here when DJ fights and says, DJ's going to win in the 4th round. He's going to win by TKO. He's going to outpoint him here and then do this and take over here. But DJ just does what he wants. He is so well-rounded. He's the most well-rounded fighter on the planet. He is the best fighter on the planet, and he outclasses and he outperforms and he outsmarts all his opponents every single fight. He does what his opponents do best, better. And then he capitalizes on where they're not as good. Realistically, we should have thought Mighty Mouse would TKO Wilson Hayes, because why would he submit a jiu-jitsu artist? I mean, why would he, take it to the mat and look for a submission when he can just really clearly outpoint Hayes and beat him up on the feet? But then he taps out, Wilson Hayes. So at this point, you know, a little while back, a year ago, I was thinking, okay, so he's going to knock out the grapplers and he's going to tap out the strikers. But clearly that's not always the case. He just does whatever he gets at that moment in time, and there's no way we can predict it at all. It's 100% speculation. I'll go with TKO. I'll say he TKOs, you know, Borg after beating him up over 2 or 3 rounds. I'll say TKO in the third, but a submission, a decision, anything's possible. But I do know one thing: Demetrius Johnson will make history this Saturday, and use it to watch. I know a lot of you probably won't, but tune in; it'll be fantastic. And the guy's the best right now. He's one of the best ever. So enjoy him while you can. I almost just ended the broadcast. Thank God I didn't do that. All right, main event time: Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee for the interim lightweight championship of the UFC. Ferguson is on a tear. Both guys are. Lee, I think 4 or 5 in a row. Ferguson, I think it's number 9 in a row, might be 10. While Conor McGregor is recovering from the Floyd Mayweather fights and just, you know, rolling in money. Here we go. Interim title fight that, you know, shouldn't be an interim title fight, but that's the story with all interim title fights. So nonetheless, Tony Ferguson, El Kikui versus the Motown Phenom, 216 main event. Who walks away with the belt?
Tony Ferguson gets it done. I think this fight's a really straightforward affair. I know a lot of people are high on Kevin Lee. I never got there. Maybe I was impressed by beating Chiesa, though. I do sort of agree that Chiesa didn't tap. I also think that it's pretty negligible. Like, Kevin Lee beat the fuck out of him, so like it's whatever. But yeah, Tony Ferguson's either the best or second best lightweight on the planet. At absolute worst, the third best lightweight on the planet. And Kevin Lee is not, and that's pretty much it. I just don't know what Kevin Lee is going to do here. I know that Kevin Lee is the biggest benefit Kevin Lee has is that he's way younger and that he is much more prone to show dramatic improvement. But Tony Ferguson's not old. He's he's sneakily like on the edge of being old for the division, like hitting that downswing. So we should enjoy him now because that might not last forever. But like, he has cardio for days. He can wrestle both offensively and defensively. He is a funky, awkward style. He's extremely hittable, especially early on the feet. So Kevin Lee needs to try and take advantage of that with some haymakers. But Kevin Lee's not really going to be able to wrestle effectively here. He's going to get stuck on the feet, and maybe he can have some success there. But if he doesn't get it done, if he doesn't hurt Tony Ferguson and get something substantive out of it, he needs to rock Ferguson early and get to the back because he is dominant on the back as well. But if he doesn't do that, Ferguson's just going to pile up damage on him, and it's a ball rolling downhill like the RDA fight. Like, yeah, RDA maybe won rounds early, but Tony Ferguson just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming and kept chipping away and hitting him, working the body, kicking the legs, doing weird, wild, funky shit. And Kevin Lee can't keep that pace, can't keep doing that. Tony Ferguson's going to break him. I think Tony Ferguson's going to end up getting a stoppage probably in the 4th round after he has really exhausted the life out of Kevin Lee. But frankly, I could also see Kevin Lee going for a takedown and getting caught up with a Darce. So I think Tony Ferguson's going to get an interim belt that is, on the one hand, a completely bullshit interim belt, and on the other hand, a completely legitimate interim belt. Bullshit because he's not fighting Khabib. Like, beating Kevin Lee does not make you the best lightweight on the planet. Beating Khabib Nurmagomedov, the winner of Tony Ferguson versus Khabib, that's the best lightweight on the planet. And that fight has never come to fruition, and frankly, probably never happens at this point because we can't have nice things in MMA. But it is a legitimate belt in the fact that I don't know if Conor's ever going to defend his lightweight belt for real. It seems like the most likely scenario is that Conor is going to fight Nate Diaz next, and that's not the lightweight belt. Beating Nate Diaz doesn't make you the best lightweight on the planet. It makes you Conor McGregor. Good for you. That's awesome. It's going to make a ton of money. I have no patience for that bullshit anymore. So Tony Ferguson is going to be my lightweight champion. But really, the lightweight champion in my mind is Khabib Nurmagomedov. I think he's the best lightweight on the planet until such time as somebody beats him. And Tony Ferguson absolutely could be the dude to do that. I hope we get to see that fight one day. But this fight will inform that one. If Kevin Lee is able to work an effective takedown game against Tony Ferguson, then Khabib would fuck him up. If Kevin Lee can't, well, then that's that's a win in the column for Tony Ferguson. Like, Kevin Lee is not the wrestler that Khabib is, but if he can shut down Lee's wrestling game entirely, that makes him a favorite going into the Khabib fight that eventually will happen. But long story short, Tony Ferguson gets a stoppage in the later parts, probably the championship rounds, maybe with the patented Darce choke. And Wesley Riddle agrees with me. He has Tony Ferguson by KO TKO in the third round.
Well, this is I'm not as confident as you, but I am going with Akikui. I do like Tony Ferguson to pick up the interim lightweight championship. Ferguson is super funky. He is really, really good on the feet. He is even better on the mat. He uses leg kicks. He uses things other fighters don't use, and that is what puts him apart from a lot of the other lightweights in the top 15, and what makes him what really could be the best lightweight on the planet today. Because I don't classify Khabib as that, and I think it's, I guess, either Conor or Ferguson, and I probably would favor
it's
100%
Ferguson. Ferguson. Like, Conor has no claim to being the best lightweight on the planet. He's beaten one lightweight.
Well, I mean, career-wise, as far as who he's beaten, no, but
yeah, he's not.
Skill-wise, it's close, but nonetheless, Ferguson.
Are you there? Did you die?
I don't know why, but gut feeling Kevin Lee might just take this. But I have to go with my brain. My brain is saying that Tony Ferguson walks away with the title. As I said, he's incredibly crafty. He's tough. He's gritty, and he's just really, really incredible at some of the things he does. He's very unorthodox, and he keeps coming, as you said. He might start a little slow, but he's there in the fifth round, and he's putting a beat down on fighters. He's, a really freaking tough, tough fighter. Kevin Lee, it's an interesting story with the Motown Phenom. Lee has looked good. He's looked not so great. If he gets the win here, I really do think this guy could be the next big thing in the UFC. I think if you ask me who's the next, big star, I think Kevin Lee is one of the names you have to mention if he wins on Saturday. But I don't think he will. He needs to work a takedown game against Ferguson. That's the one way to beat Ferguson. But that was also 3 years ago. He nearly lost to Danny Castillo, who got him down and lied on top of him for a lot of the fight. But that was also 3 years ago. Ferguson's really good on the mat, and I think it's all dangerous to look for a takedown against Ferguson nowadays, because he can lock something up, maybe a triangle or reverse the position and end up getting a signature Darce or whatever. But that's what Kevin Lee needs to do, and he's good at that. He's a great wrestler. And he's good at getting submissions. We saw the Michael Chiesa somewhat controversial fight in June. The guy is really talented, and he's getting better. He's getting extremely better fight to fight. He was better in the Chiesa fight than the Trinaldo fight, and they were just 3 or 4 months apart. And the guy is young. The guy's getting better. The guy has he has this personality where, again, should you win, he could be the next big thing, but comes down to this fight, and he's just not going to win. Ferguson's too tough. He's too good. He's fought the best of the best. He's fought Rafael dos Anjos, and one fight after already lost the title. And the guy has fought a lot of top competition. Edson Barboza, who you of course are is incredibly high on. Kevin Lee's biggest win is at the time a controversial submission over Michael Chiesa. That just doesn't do the same thing. It doesn't compare. Give me Ferguson. You saying late finish has me thinking. I was initially going decision, but that could be an option. He comes on strong late. We haven't seen Kevin Lee go 5 rounds in the UFC and probably ever, and we don't know how he'll look in those championship rounds. I'll go late finish as well. I think he wraps up a submission let's say late in the fourth. I think, is that exactly what you're going to?
Yeah, that's what I had.
Yeah, so not trying to copy, but the
I don't have
Ferguson
a submission. I have a TKO, but
all
yeah,
right,
I
so
have it.
Ferguson submission round 4. That is my prediction. All right, that is it for UFC 216. Let's go through our DraftKings real quick and bonuses. And I mean, we've gone on for a little while. We wanted to touch on Bellator. We'll go through 1 or 2 fights real quick, but we'll be out of here pretty soon. So bonuses for 216.
My bonuses are I'm going with my tried and true strategy: pick 5-round fights. Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson. That's my fight of the night. My 2 performances. I'm picking the heavies. I've got 2 heavyweight guys coming in with early KO. Well, one of them's an early KO. Walt Harris. I think he's going to get a first round TKO KO over Mark Godbeer. So that's one. The other one. I've got Derek Lewis upsetting Fabricio Verdum. If he knocks out Verdum, I find it hard to believe he doesn't get a bonus there. So that's my 2 bonus predictions. Wes Riddle, on the other hand, he's going with, I think, probably the second favorite fight if you were going to do odds on it as far as fight of the night. The Beneil Dariush versus Evan Dunham. That's his fight of the night prediction. Pretty good call, let's be honest with ourselves. His performance predictions are Tony Ferguson because he thinks he's going to submit Kevin Lee as we so stipulated earlier, and Lando Venata, who he believes is going to knock out. I don't even remember who's Venata. Oh, Bobby Green. That's right. Yeah. So that's his bonuses. What about you, Nicholas? You're the guy with the hot hand in the bonus game. So where are we at, Nicholas?
And I am back
Right,
right on time.
Good. You are right on time. You are the man with the hot hand in bonus land. So make your predictions for the bonuses, sir.
Okay, since I was gone, I was getting water, as you could hear. My throat was closing in on me. Who did you go for DraftKings firstly? Just for me.
I haven't done DraftKings yet.
Oh, you haven't?
Just
Okay.
established
Bonuses, who did you go?
I've got Ferguson Lee as the fight of the night. Wes has Dariush Dunham. I have Lewis and Harris as performances. Wes has Ferguson and Lando Venata.
All right. Fight tonight, I'm going Ferguson Lee. And performances. Let's see here. I'm going quite a number of decisions here. Demetrius Johnson and Walt Harris.
Okay.
Since I think those are 2 of the only fighters I have getting finishes here. 1, 2. Yeah, no number of decisions here. I hope I'm wrong. Duke and Wong could surprise. Brooks might late TKO. We have potential for finishes, but I opted to go the other way on a lot of these. So those are my bonuses. Why don't you go ahead and give us your DraftKings?
Oh, first I'll do Wes Riddle's DraftKings.
Sure.
He has Evan Dunham, Lando Venata, Fabricio Verdum, Tony Ferguson, Walt Harris, and Cody Stamann as his DraftKings team. I have I share I think 3 fighters with Wes as far as our things go. Yeah. I also have Evan Dunham. I also have Tony Ferguson. I also have Walt Harris. But instead of his other 3, I've got Demetrius Johnson, Bobby Green, and Derek Lewis. I mixed up big underdogs and big favorites because I like the big favorites. I think Ferguson, Walt Harris, and DJ are all worth a lot of points, and when they win, they're going to win with a lot of points. And I'm picking Dunham and I'm picking Derek Lewis for upsets, so that makes it simple. And we talked about it. I think Bobby Green has a chance against Lando Venata. I am picking Lando Venata, but it wouldn't surprise if Bobby Green can get his head right and not dick around too much. He can come in there and outpoint Lando Venata. So he's a straw that stirs the rest of my drink, makes all my money add up correctly. That's my DK team. Bring us home with your DraftKings team.
Well, this was tough. For everybody, there's a number of pretty big favorites here, especially on DraftKings, and we're not picking too many underdogs. I know you sort of lucked out by picking Dunham and Lewis. That really helped your team. Just going through
Pateo. You've got Pateo as an underdog. You can pick that.
Pateo. Oh yeah, that's right.
Actually, I think she might not be an underdog. I don't even know.
Well, I do have Pateo on my DraftKings team, so and that was before you just said it. So my DraftKings team.
Is an underdog.
What's that?
Talis Leites is an underdog.
And I happen to have Talis Leites on my team too. Although I feel like that might not work out, but here we go. Paulina Botella, I believe her name is Paulina.
Yeah, it
right?
is. Yeah.
Poliana Botelho.
Okay.
Okay, so it's her. It's Tom Duquesnoy. It is Walt Harris. And here's an interesting one. I got Kevin Lee because I think the fight is close, and he's an underdog. Talos Ladies and Fabricio Verdum.
But we've got a lot of – that's good. Oftentimes our DraftKings teams are like one or both. The two of us will have very similar teams. We got a lot of dissension. Me and Wes share 3, but we have 3 very different fighters. He's on Verdum. You and Wes have both Verdum and Harris, but you don't have any share else with that. And then you and I share Walt Harris and nobody else. So it's a good mix. You got a good mix going on.
I'm jealous you were able to fit Demetrius Johnson in there, and Derek Lewis looked good even though I'm picking Verdum. So I mean, I'm not loving Talos Ladies in there.
It just depends. Derek Lewis is going to bring me 0 points if he doesn't knock out Verdum. It's going to be awful. Yeah, so I'm a boomer bust guy, and that's what I'm doing right here.
Well, I'll probably stick with my team, but Talos Ladies, even though I got him winning, I don't know. I could see Tavares winning, but nonetheless, that is my team. Let's move on to Bellator real quick. Actually, a pretty good card. Bellator 185 from the WinStar Casino, Thackerville, Oklahoma, tomorrow night, October 6, 2017, on Spike TV. Main event: Eduardo Dantas, Darren Caldwell for the bantamweight title. We also have Emmanuel Sanchez, Daniel Strauss, Pat Curran versus John Teixeira, Joe Time and Glow, Leandro Higo. And those are the 4 fights we'll touch on because that's all I know and all I care about. Time on Glow and Leandro Higo, actually a pretty interesting fight. Time on Glow had beat Caldwell, who's fighting for the title tomorrow night, and then he lost to Caldwell. And I think he lost since then. I could be he's coming off back-to-back.
Coming off the fights with Caldwell.
Yeah, two fights in his last 2 with Caldwell. Higo made his Bellator debut in his last outing. He lost to Dantas by close decision in a non-title fight. Who is your pick here real quick?
Tough fight, fun fight. I feel bad for Taimanglo, just because like beating Darren Caldwell should have been like the feather in his cap, and then they immediately ran it back on him to get like specifically because like it was Darren Caldwell got fucked. We need to get that win right back. Like he's Conor McGregor. And that should have been something that they maybe built him off of a little more instead of just being like, fuck it, run Caldwell right back. Let's try and make this so it doesn't ever happen. So it's like it never happened. That being said, I think Leandro Higo is a better fighter. And I don't think Joe Taimanglo is not going to be able to catch him in a sub like he did with Darren Caldwell. And that's just really straight up on it. I thought Higo looked great against Eduardo Dantas. Arguably could have won that fight. I don't recall how I scored it. I just remember thinking that the fight was entertaining and close, and that the blown weight was a sadness about it. But yeah, give me Leandro Higo there. And it appears odd makers agree with me. He's a judicious -245 favorite. So it's that. I'm just going to run through my whole Bellator thing because I don't have a lot to say about these guys anyway. Pat Curran's going to beat the hell out of John Teixeira because Pat Curran is – I actually think John Teixeira is a good fighter. Don't get me wrong. So I reflexively said Pat Curran's going to beat the hell out of him. And then as I started talking about it, I was like, maybe he's not going to beat the hell out of him. Pat Curran might be like on the decline, He lost to Patricio Pitbull, lost that tight split decision to Daniel Weichel. I think Teixeira's last fight was also a split D loss to Daniel Weichel.
That shouldn't have been a loss.
Yeah, it's right. I'm not. Am I wrong?
Yes,
right. That is the thing that happened, right? Okay. Just making sure about that. So I guess that's an interesting thing. I don't know. I originally just thought, and that's just on me, really. That's just like a reflexive thing. Like, oh yeah, that's it. But Macapa should have beaten Weichel, and Weichel should have beaten Curran. As far as I recalling, like it should have been a split D over there. Maybe I'm still gonna pick Pat Curran just because I don't know. That's probably just bias at that point, but I'm still picking Pat Curran there. But I do think that fight's a lot closer now that I started talking about it. Daniel Strauss, Emmanuel Sanchez. Well, this card really is pretty good. A lot of like not huge name fighters, unless you are deep in
It's
the
a fun
MMA
Bellator
game.
card for
Yeah,
people that like Bellator.
yeah. If you're a hardcore MMA fan, you're deep in the MMA game. Like this Charles Sanchez fight is actually kind of a barn burner. Sanchez has looked pretty solid, coming off his own split decision loss to Daniel Weichel. Good lord, Daniel Weichel just split D in everybody these days. Good God. Um, but yeah, so I might go with the underdog there and take Emmanuel Sanchez. Yeah, sure, just mix it up for funsies. Let's do that. Darian Caldwell versus Eduardo Dudu Dantas. Caldwell is the hot shit dude who got upended by Joe Taimanglo. I don't think he gets upended this time. I think he is the favorite. We're talking about a multiple time All American, a D1 champion wrestling, who has looked good coming coming over. He submitted Joe Warren. Joe Warren, I know, is kind of an up and down fighter, but you got to respect Joe Warren's skills. The same in Eduardo Dantas he's a champ for a reason. He is still a young dude. How old is he right now? Is he
I'm gonna say 29.
Yeah, he's still pretty young. Been around the game for a while.
It's 28.
Yeah, but like we saw Joe Warren beat him once, and I think Darian Caldwell can be better than that. Essentially, I think you can take advantage of his wrestling. I think Darian Caldwell is going to do it. So yeah, that's my call on the Bellator. I'm going Caldwell, Sanchez for funsies, though that's close. Frankly, I could be talked into John Teixeira as well, but I'm going to stick with Pat Curran. Actually, fuck that. No, I'm going to go Teixeira. I'm going to go Caldwell, Sanchez, Teixeira, Higo. And so 2 favorites, 2 underdogs. It should be fun. That's my call. What about you, sir?
All right. Well, we have three same, 1 different. What just happened? Did your guy just lose?
He just dropped a damn pass.
Well, we got 3 the same, 1 different. I want you to guess, who do we have opposite?
You're going to pick Darian Caldwell. You're going to pick Leandro Higo. It's going to be between my 2 underdog picks. I think that you are picking Daniel Strauss.
That is it. So I am picking John Teixeira. By process of elimination, that means I am fading Pat Curran. So my picks, as you went over, Darren Caldwell, I like him to pick up the bantamweight title. Interesting fight against Dudu Dantas. This is a close one, really close. I won't be surprised if it goes Dantas' way. Dantas is still getting better. Caldwell certainly is, and he's even more up and coming than Dantas is. He hasn't quite hit his peak per se, but Caldwell, he looked incredible against Joe Warren, and I saw that fight. I think that was actually the first time I had seen Caldwell fight, and I thought, okay, this guy's a killer. This guy is one of the best bantamweights in the world, or he could be, and he still could be. But those 2 time and glow fights were really kind of almost disappointing, particularly the second one. He lost the first one, but he looked better for the first 2 rounds of the first one than he did in the second fight. I don't think, I mean, he did what he had to do, but the second time on glow fight, other than getting a win back, that wasn't all that impressive. So I think that, we might be almost too high on Caldwell. We'll find out. I'm still picking him because he's an outstanding wrestler, and Dantas has lost in that fashion before. So I like Caldwell to be able to get Dantas down and squeak out a decision win to win the bantamweight title. Biggest win of his career, and that's a good headliner. Co-main event, Daniel Strauss, I like him to beat Emmanuel Sanchez. Close fight, Sanchez brings it. He's tough, he's gritty, he's entertaining, but Strauss, as long as he doesn't have like a mental block and is there and shows up and is ready to fight and isn't injured and all that, he is one of the best featherweights. Well, certainly the second best featherweight, in Bellator probably, and one of the better featherweights on the planet. I like Daniel Strauss. He's a bit more technical, and I think he outpoints Manuel Sanchez. Although it is close. Sanchez, I think, might be a bit bigger. That could be interesting. Pat Curran, I think, will lose to John Teixeira. Macapa, I wasn't super familiar with him, but man, he looked good against Daniel Weichel. I think it was almost more so Weichel didn't look, super great in that fight, but Macapa should have won that fight. He should have walked away the victor there. And Pat Curran, I think he's not a shot fighter, but I think he's slowly, declining. I think he has been for a while. He's slowly getting to that washed up phase of a fighter's career. So this is mostly a fade on Kern, although I do think Teixeira is a good fighter himself. MMA math here, I think Teixeira should have beat Weichel, and Weichel definitely beat Kern. So that's your MMA math of the day. And finally, Joe Timon-Glow versus Leandro Higo. I think pretty clearly Higo will take the win here. Timon-Glow is a good fighter. He picked up that win over Caldwell, shocked the world, but we saw what should have happened in the second fight, or what should have happened in the first fight in the second fight. And that's ultimately Caldwell more or less dominating Timon-Glow. Timon-Glow is a good fighter. He beats Ruan Kakai. That was kind of surprising before the Caldwell upset win. But I think Higo's grappling is just on a different level. Guy's really good coming over from LFA for a second Bellator fight. I actually think he beat Dantas, although that was really, really close, and a lot of people disagreed. Higo, though, I think will take the win over Timon-Glow. Might even tap him out. Pretty interesting fight there. And that is it for Bellator 184, going down tomorrow night. Worth tuning in if you're a hardcore MMA fan. And that is it for the show, episode 84 of Before the Battle in the books. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully Wes will be back with us next week. Jed, let everybody know where they can find you on social media, and if there's anybody you'd like to thank or anything to plug, your writing, your podcast, go ahead.
You can find me on social media on Twitter at Jed Meshew. Give me a follow there. My writing every day is at MMAfighting.com. And the last thing I will plug, as Nicholas mentioned earlier, I am running a marathon to raise money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. It's a research hospital for children with cancer. There's almost no better cause in the world than children with cancer. I would appreciate anything you can donate. You can find the links on my Twitter. Go check that out. My esteemed colleague and co-host Nicholas here has donated to help fight childhood cancer, which is, and like I said, it's an incredible cause. It's a tax write-off. Every single dollar helps, even if it's just one. If that's all you can or care to contribute, it'd be greatly appreciated. The kids would appreciate it. I would appreciate it. Yeah, so that's it. Please donate for that if you can, and I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. What is that? What is that? All right, you guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. And, oh, wow, we have some visitors here on Before the Battle. I don't know who this is. Oh, there goes Jed. Well, that was interesting. Anyways, you guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. You can find my other podcast, The MMA Circus, on this YouTube channel. Liam Hughes, haha, Jed's porn started playing. That is fantastic. But then someone ran in his room in real life, and yeah, so you can find my other podcast, The MMA Circus, here on this YouTube channel right here. Click down below when it says The MMA Circus, right beside the profile picture. Click it, click our videos, and boom, episode 131 dropped this past Tuesday. Me and Andrew Lawrence and I should say, we recorded episode 31 this past Tuesday night. It was a great episode. We talked about 216. We forgot to talk about Bellator. That's why we talked about it tonight. We also touched on the Verdum-Ferguson mess from the UFC lunch. We talked about Conor McGregor wanting to legitimize the UFC lightweight title by finally defending it and forgiving, getting rid of the money fight thing. And we also touched on Anthony Rumble Johnson may be coming back. So we talked about that and all more and much more. Dumb questions, gets it, doesn't get it, all that on the MMA Circus. Check out my interviews, Jimmy Rivera and Tom Duquesnoy, here on this channel as well. That is all I have to plug. Again, my Twitter, go for the Circus, iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast. We're now on SoundCloud. That's fantastic. So if you're a SoundCloud user, you're in luck. That is all I have. That is, Jed's gone. Wes is studying. Good luck to Wes and whatever he has going on. Thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the fights tomorrow and on Saturday.